Different layout for today, being that we're in this Amos series. Today I'm at both locations, so bear with me. We'll talk first and then have worship at the end. But welcome. It's really good to have everybody here. Good to see everybody. You braved the snow, which is awesome. The road was like legit like an inch of ice on the way over here, like ice skate a bowl, like, which is crazy. I love that. I also have four-wheel drive, so that helps a little bit. So good job, everybody who doesn't actually making it here. But today we're smack dab in the middle of this sermon series called Not So Famous Amos. And it's called that, obviously, kind of a play on words, but also just because we're talking about this guy named Amos who was a prophet of his day and was really just not liked. He brought the truth in a time when the people of God were really just going against God and doing everything wrong, like doing everything in a pretty sinful way. So he really just wasn't cared about that much in his time, and I think we see a lot of value later looking back. And today we're going to find out kind of why he wasn't liked. So last week, Cody talked about how Amos was a fig tree farmer turned prophet, which is a huge step up, I think. I don't know a fig tree farmer. Maybe you do. I would assume it's a relatively normal job. But so he lived in a time where there was this divided kingdom where Israel was broken into Israel in the north and Judah in the south. And he lived in Judah, kind of right near the border, and just saw all the stuff that was happening. But also, there was a ton of injustice like around the area. And he talks about all these different cities that like Cody talked about yesterday, all these different places. And all of them kind of create a circle around where they were. And he's basically showing like, look, all these people all around us are doing all these horrible things. We've got Damascus, who's doing these brutal military tactics. Gaza and Tyre are involved in slavery. Edom is murder. Ammon is genocide, which is just like murder times a lot. Moab had cruelty towards Edom. Judah was rejecting the law of God. And Israel just has a laundry list of bribery, greed, adultery, immorality, selfishness, ingratitude, drunkenness, and rejecting God's revelation. And I don't know if there's one of those that doesn't apply to America today. It doesn't apply to most of the world today. Like, we are just rampant in sin. Like it was a messed up time then, it's a messed up time now, and God calls out all of this injustice. So Amos lived under the reign of King Jeroboam II, and I know you know all about him, but I'll tell you a little bit more. He was a phenomenal military leader and was like taking ground and had a ton of money, but he was not the greatest person. He was definitely not a good follower of God. And really, the biggest things that were put on him was that he allowed idolatry to come into this country that was supposed to be all about God. He enabled the wealthy people to basically use and take advantage of the lower class. And ultimately, he just didn't fear God. He kind of looked at God and was like, I can do this better, which is never a good move. Like to look at God and be like, I've got this. So last week, Cody talked about all these injustices and then all the ways that the people around Israel and Judah disobeyed God. So today we're going to be looking at Amos speaking directly as like a mouthpiece from God to these different people and saying, this is what's going to happen. This is the judgment that's coming because of all this. So he kind of, picking up in chapter 6 here, he kind of continues the rebuke. And I'll tell you, if this is your first time, first off, welcome. But I want to let you guys know that we have an app that you can download called Church Center. You can follow along with the notes of what we're talking about. It'll also be up on the screen here. But we're going to dive into the beginning of Amos 6. And essentially, the core of this is God saying to the people, like, you are ignoring all of this stuff that's happening. Like, you're doing nothing about it, and God is disgusted by these things while you do nothing, while you just like sit in your fancy parties and do nothing. So Amos 6:1, he starts off this way, and I don't have time to go through all of the chapter, but I want to hit a couple excerpts from it. So the beginning of Amos 6, he says, "Woe to you who are complacent in Zion, and to you who feel secure on Mount Samaria, you notable men of the foremost nation to whom the people of Israel come." So he starts out basically, I'm warning you, you people who are just complacent in opulence. In verse 4, he really digs into the things that they're doing. So Amos 6:4, he says, "You lie on beds adorned with ivory and lounge on your couches. You dine on choice lambs and fattened calves. You strum away on your harps like David and improvise on musical instruments. You drink wine by the bowlful and use the finest lotions, but you do not grieve over the ruin of Joseph." And here in Joseph, he's saying it's the people of God. You're not grieving over the fact that Israel is not what it has been and not what it should be. In verse 7, he says, "Therefore, you will be among the first to go into exile. Your feasting and lounging will end." Now, I want to point out here, he's not mad at these people for the luxuries. He's not mad at them for having good meat, nice beds, and killer harp solos. That's not what he's against them for. He's against them because they've taken the blessing that God has given them, and they started worshiping the blessing instead of the one who blessed them. They started getting so wrapped up in the creation and the stuff that they missed God who's behind it. And really, he's furious with them here because they're wasting their lives. Because there's all of this destruction, there's all of this brokenness, and they literally have the keys to how to get rid of that. They have God, they have the law, they have righteousness. They have the literal heart of God who is for them. And they're taking this thing and ignoring it and focusing on the wine, the parties, the hangout, how fluffy their couches are. It's just a complete waste of life, And I think the disgust from God isn't just about the sin. I think it's about the fact that they are missing the sin, that they're just ignoring it, and they're sitting up he says here that you feel secure on Mount Samaria, you're just above everyone else. You're just up there. You're safe. You're not going with the people who are dealing with this stuff. And they're so caught up in the most recent Netflix show, and they're so caught up into the election that just happened, and they're so caught up in the trips that they're taking and the Instagram reels that they've lost sight of the fact that there are people around them who are destroying the heart of God, and they're just separating themselves from the people. They're insulating themselves from the brokenness. Now, if that's not the American church, I don't know what is. If that's not the church in our world today, where we insulate ourselves from the brokenness so that we don't get affected by them, gosh, that's what he's calling out here. And that's what we need to hear today as the church, is that, don't get sucked into the sin, obviously, but there's a reason that he started out by calling the sin around them, not in them. Because they're just trying to insulate themselves from it. And then, because of that, they're just getting sucked into it. So those things aren't bad. Netflix is not in and of itself bad. And good meat, man, that's my jam. But when we get sucked into that and it becomes everything we're living for, we're literally just wasting our lives. And he then kind of presses into something pretty poignant here in verse 12. And I'd encourage you guys as I read this, not to read it as God through Amos to the people. Read it to you. What would you say about yourself in this? Amos 6:12 said, "You have turned justice into poison and the fruit of righteousness into bitterness." Does that apply to us? Have we taken, by the fruit of righteousness, he means literally, he keeps calling out Jacob here. He's saying, because of the righteousness that came before you, you have all of these incredible blessings now. But you've turned righteousness into bitterness. You've taken this incredible thing that I gave you, and you have worshiped it, and now it's worthless. Now it's not even blessing anymore. It's disgust. It's this horrible thing. And again, man, I don't know about you, but I see myself in these pages so deeply because it's so easy to get so caught up in it. And even in my own life on a small timeline When I look back at the things that 10, 15, 20 years ago I was begging God for, and I was like, God, will you give me this thing? Like, will you make it so I'm not terrified of where my next meal is going to come from? Will you make it so that I'm not worried about this thing? And then we have it and we start blessing those, they're like worshiping those blessings instead of pointing back to the one who gave it to us. We completely forget the source, right? At least I do. I'm probably worse than all you, but that's where I'm at, you know? It's hard to hear, you know? And then I think in Amos 6:8, this is what God kind of boils it down to. I abhor, which is not like I really dislike. It's like I abhor, I hate the pride of Jacob, and I detest his fortress. I will deliver up the city and everything in it. That's heavy. Think about like your kids, if you guys have kids. Think about them growing up and moving so far away from what you've set up for them, for what you've given them, for how you've invested in them, that the thing that they're living for disgusts you, and you hate the house they built for themselves. You don't hate the kid. I want to make sure that that is clear here. God is not saying he hates the kids. What he's saying is, I hate the fortress that you built around yourself. I hate the way you've insulated yourself from me. And I'm not okay with this. And we got to remember last week when Cody was speaking, like we kept seeing this thing come up again. It says, seek the Lord and live. Amos 5:4, 5:6, and 5:14. Seek the Lord and live. That reality is still a reality in this chapter. Seek the Lord, it'll come together. It'll fix itself. Like God's saying, I fix everything. But that doesn't like insulate them from the righteousness and the judgment that has to come. And I think one of the things that we do often today is we separate the righteousness of God and the justice of God and the judgment of God from the love and the mercy and the grace of God. And it is not popular to speak on or to preach on the judgment of God today. Like, that's like the 70s hellfire and brimstone thing. We don't talk about it. But it's just as real today as it was then. And the love of God, the grace of God, and the mercy of God today was just as real back then as it is now. And I feel like what we do often is I think the best way I can say it is we like spiritually castrate God, and we pull the power out, and we say, well, God's not this big, powerful, scary thing anymore. He's just all loving, and he's like just this hippie who's okay with everything I do. And God can be at the same time all powerful and all knowing and a little terrifying, but also incredibly loving and incredibly like just embracing in the way that he pulls us in. And the reality of this is Amos looking at God in a time where he was like doling out judgment and still seeing the heart of God where the people were missing it. And for us today, like we have to realize that God is both of those things. That God is all powerful. He's not passive, he's not weak, he's not disinterested, he's not just some sky genie where if we ask it the right way, we get it. He is this all-powerful, wrathful, loving God that just hates sin. And I have a friend, actually I say I have a friend because I'm thinking of one, but I have like legit like 10 friends whose kids have given themselves completely to drugs. And when you look at a man who is looking at his son and just seeing destruction, like it's a different level of brokenness. And this one guy I was talking to like was just so broken and just so hurting and just bawling his eyes out and just like feeling like he couldn't roll up into a ball enough because of the disgust that he had for the cocaine that was ruining his kid's life. And there was a level of hatred in his eyes for cocaine that is different than anything I've experienced. because it's destroyed something he loves. And I guarantee you his kid looks at his dad and says, he hates me. But that's not it at all. It's not that he hates his son. It's that he hates the thing that's destroying his son, and he hates seeing his son in bondage. That's the heart that we're seeing here from God. That's the judgment of all this, is God looking at his people and just weeping over the fact that these people that he's invested in for generations are so broken and so hurting that they don't even know which way is up. And our God is a God who literally rescues people out of that level of brokenness when they don't know which way is up. That's who God is. And as we continue in this story, I want to take a pause from this for a second and just say, like, as we keep looking at the story of God throwing judgment on these people and like standing for his righteousness, it's easy to see God as a far off, like thoughtless, feelingless, just monster. And that's not who God is. Actually, he so hated the fact that he had to keep doing this stuff that he made a different way. And today, when we look at this, we see God in a different light because of Jesus. Because I couldn't even imagine being God and going through thousands and thousands and thousands of years working through all of this stuff and investing everything in his people and seeing him just give them the middle finger. And investing everything in him and seeing them just like literally like poop on the throne. Like bring all of their grossness and all of their junk and all of the stuff that makes them human, and they drop it in the holy place and say, sorry, God, walk away. Like I couldn't imagine just the stress of that, like the hatred of that going on. And God was so fed up with that he's like, you know what? They can never pay the price for this. I can't destroy their cities enough. So I have to pay the price for this. And he came personally and literally paid the price for every single one of you, for me, for them. Like he came in person and paid the price, like lived a perfect life and died a horrific death to pay the price for this stuff. Because he could not wipe out Judah enough times to pay the price. And when we read this, we read it differently than Amos read it. And that's so good. That's so, like, I don't know what the opposite of disheartening is. Enheartening. Yeah, it's so encouraging. It's so good that God pulls us out of this and we look at it differently. I'm thankful for that today. So, in this next section, God gives Amos these visions of what that destruction looks like. And again, like I want to reiterate, Jesus died so that we wouldn't go through this destruction. And the Bible says that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you'll be saved. And when you say yes to that relationship, it like exempts us from this destruction. We still deserve it. Like I still should be in the middle of this, but he exempts us from it because he paid the price. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't said yes to that, please do, because it changes everything. But these are the visions that God gives Amos here. Amos 7:1 says, "This is what the sovereign Lord showed me. He was preparing swarms of locusts after the king's share had been harvested, and just as the late crops were coming up. When they had stripped the land clean, I cried out, 'Sovereign Lord, forgive. How can Jacob survive? He is so small. How can Israel survive? How can the people of God survive? They're so weak. They're so small.' And the Lord relented. This will not happen." So Amos sees this vision of locusts coming. And I think when we hear locusts, we're like, that sucks. Like, get the raid, like let's kill them in the field, But this is literally death. Like, this is literally malnutrition, no food, nowhere to go. This is a death sentence for a nation, and the nation will be over. So Amos is like, God, please don't do that. Like, we don't have the strength. We can't pull back from that. Like, there's no way we'll make it. Please don't do that. So God listens to Amos, and he agrees not to do it. And then in verse 4, this is what the sovereign Lord showed me. He gets another one. The sovereign Lord was called for judgment by fire. That's never what you want. It dried up the great deep and devoured the land. And then I cried out, Sovereign Lord, I beg you, stop. How can we survive? How can Jacob survive? He is so small. So the Lord relented. This will not happen either, the Sovereign Lord said. So now God's like, I'm just going to torch it. If we didn't think we were made in the image of God before, how many times have you looked at something and been like, I want to torch it. I'm done. I just get rid of it. And God's like, I'm going to dry up the water. I'm going to burn the ground. It's done. And Amos says, no, please don't do that. Please realize what that means, like save our people. And God listens and he doesn't do it. So twice Amos begs God to have mercy and he does it. And that's hard to even understand because God's like outside of time and he knew that was going to happen before he said it. But like the heart of God is for his people. That's the takeaway here. So let me bring this back to today for a second again, okay? What would you say if God looked at you and said, Indianapolis, I'm going to burn it to the ground. It's messed up. I'm done. Like, what would you say if God looked at it and he said, Indianapolis is out of control. There were 208 homicides in 2024. Not okay. The majority of the city laughs at biblical sexuality. Women and children are being bought and sold into sexual slavery in our neighborhood. It's happening here. It's disgusting. The head of the teachers union is embezzling money. There's so many politicians in the last couple of years that have been arrested for corruption and taking bribes. Almost 3,000 people a year die from drug overdoses. You're not doing anything about it. There are more foster kids per capita than almost any city in the U.S., not to mention the fact that much of the city looks at his followers and says that they're lunatics, bigots, liars, and thieves because they follow him. Like, why would he not burn it to the ground? So what if he looked at you and said, I'm done, it's over? Would you be like the King Jeroboam crowd who's like, you know what, that's fine, I'm just going to insulate myself. I live in a house that's far enough away. I've got a wall, whatever. I'm good. Or would you be like with God and say, yeah, I guess just burn it to the ground. Like this place literally has gone to hell. And that's not just a saying, like it's gone to looking like hell on earth. Or would you be like Amos and beg God to save it? And I think that's something that really struck me while I was reading this, is Amos is has so much love for the people, by the way, that hated him, that he was not famous in, and he almost got arrested because he was like trying to like go against the king. Like all this stuff is happening. And he begs God, please don't destroy it. Like he had a warning. He could have been like, this is my cue. I'm moving to Toledo. Like, I don't know. He could have done anything. And instead, he stands his ground and he says, God, please don't do this to these people. Please. And I think there's a little side note in there for all of us too. Like, yes, we're surrounded by destruction, but that's when we get on our knees and we pray. And we beg, God, will you save our city? Will you save the broken people that would be a part of this, that are being destroyed right now by this? And that right there, I think, is what the people were missing. That's what King Jeroboam was missing. Because, I want to point out, the first 5 chapters of Amos, God is disgusted with the sin that's happening, right? But the straw that breaks the camel's back in this book is the fact that the people were not. It wasn't even the sin that really got him to jump into the judgment. It was the fact that they had apathy and they didn't care about the sin. That they had become so disconnected that they just stopped being disgusted by the sin around them. And guys, we cannot stop being disgusted by the sin around us. We can't just give in and be like, well, it's just a thing. We have to continue to be disgusted by it. Like we can't be okay with sex before marriage because God says it's wrong. We should be disgusted by it because it disgusts him. We can't just be okay with human trafficking because I didn't see it. We should be disgusted by it. Like we can't just write off drug use because it's everywhere because we passed 10 druggies on the way here. No, we should be disgusted by it. We should be loving those people and helping them out of it. We can't just ignore the smut that we see on social media because it's not technically porn. Like, no, it is. I mean, the word porn literally comes from the Greek word porneia, which means sexual immorality. So look at it and ask yourself, well, maybe don't look at it, you get the point. Ask yourself the question, is this sexual immorality? Yep. Be disgusted by it. We should be disgusted by this. Like, don't just be okay with greed and flaunting wealth because rap culture glorifies it. Be disgusted by it. Don't just embrace pride and arrogance because it makes you a good business person. Be disgusted by it. Like, when we stop being disgusted by the sin around us, that's when the judgment happens. Because the real thing that he's calling out here is apathy, complacency. It's doing nothing in the face of injustice. And I think, again, I just want to say, like, the people of God stopped being disgusted. We can't stop being disgusted by it. We can't just say, well, that's normal, it's going to happen in a broken world. We need to fight for righteousness. We need to fight for those people to get them out of the pit that they're in. And that, I think, is really the key to so much of what we need to do in this book of Amos. Because from here, we go into judgment. And it's rough, man. The history of what happens after this, like, I really wish I could be like, and they all listened and they had parties and everyone followed Jesus again. No, that's not how it went down. It kind of turns at the end and we see a future where God like shows redemption. And we'll get to that next week. But for this week, this is where we land. These pretty rough details of what God's going to do. And most of chapter 6 and 7 are just more of God talking about destroying his people. And then in 8, this is what happens. Amos 8:7, the Lord has sworn by himself, the pride of Jacob, I will never forget anything they have done. Amos 8:10, I will turn your religious festivals into mourning and all of your singing into weeping. Verse 11, I will send a famine through the land, not a famine of food or thirst for water, but a famine of hearing the words of the Lord. Which, if you don't think that's the worst one, then get more time with Jesus, because that's the worst one. Amos 9:11, strike the tops of the pillars so that the thresholds shake. Bring them down on the heads of all the people, and those who are left I will kill with the sword. No one will get away. No one will escape. He is livid with his people. And like, livid's not the right word for that. I thought for a while about what word that should be, and I don't think there is a word in the English language. To kind of lighten the mood a little bit, like the thing that I think is like the closest to that realm is that line from Taken with Liam Neeson, where he's like on the phone and I'm going to quote this, but it says, what I have are a very particular set of skills I've acquired over a long career, skills that'll make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you and I will kill you. Could you imagine being on the other side of that phone? You know, like if you've ever seen that movie, it's like, oh yeah, go get him. But like that's the kind of energy we're seeing from God here is you have royally screwed up. You don't even know. It's all coming to an end. It's done. Now, he ends with this pretty heavy here. Amos 9:7-10. He says, are not you Israelites the same to me as the Cushites, declares the Lord, people who are completely against him. Did I not bring Israel up from Egypt, the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Armenians from Kir? Surely the eyes of the sovereign Lord are on the sinful kingdom. I will destroy it from the face of the earth. Yet I will not totally destroy the descendants of Jacob, declares the Lord. For I will give the command, and I will shake the people of Israel among the nations as grain is shaken in a sieve, and not a pebble will reach the ground. All the sinners among my people will die by the sword, all of those who say disaster will not overtake us. Again, dark. I'm also kind of mad at Cody for making me preach this one because I just kind of have to leave it there, and we get to make it all happy next week. But I want to point out in the middle here, like there's hope. In the middle of the most intensity that I think I have ever read or seen or heard, there's this one little line in the middle. Yet I will not totally destroy the descendants of Jacob. Even in the midst of God being all righteous, all powerful, just this crazy, like terrifying God, he still is like, but I love you guys. Like, I love you guys. And I think like his heart just burns for his people. And the reason that the righteousness and the judgment comes down on them is because he loves them. And again, Tristan next week gets to bring in the last part of it and give you the happy stuff. But man, the place that I'll leave it, we'll go through the connection card here in a second, but the place that I'll leave it is this, like, it's that guy dealing with his kid who's a coke addict. All you see is destruction, and he hates the destruction, and he can't stand that this thing is happening, but it's because of his love for his son. And throughout all of this, that's the heart of God. And the cool thing about this is that the very thing that's coming down on these people, the very reason that God's against these people's complacency and inaction is because he's inviting them into loving those people also. God loves his people so much, and he invites his people into loving those people. And that's the opportunity that we have, is to hate the sin that's around us, to despise it, to be disgusted by it, but to be invited into pulling people out of it and seeing redemption. And that is such a cool thing. So we've got this connection card. Hopefully you got one. Does anyone need one in here? There's also a digital one on the Church Center app. You can click the button and fill out the connection card there. But these next steps are hard. A lot of times we have really easy things like, I'll pray for somebody this week. Like, this is not that. The things I want to encourage you guys to do are this. The first one is, I realize that judgment is a reality, and I need to stop treating God like he's powerless. I got to be honest, I don't think there's a single one of us in this room who isn't guilty of that. Mostly because of our presuppositions, mostly because of the age that we live in. I think a lot of us just don't understand the strength and the power of our God. And the power that destroys all the darkness around us. Every ungodly and demonic thing is like trash under his feet. That's the power that we worship, and we need to remember that. The second thing is, I'll strive for righteousness in my own life and not be angry at God for having a standard he set. Man, we in this culture today love to decide for ourselves what is right and wrong. And it's not our call. We don't get to decide what's right and wrong. We don't get to decide what we live for and what we don't. And we hate hearing that. It feels like a right has been taken away from us, but that's not what it is. Actually, it's a weight being taken away from us because we will choose wrong. And God knows what's best for us. And the last thing here is, I'll pray for God's mercy on the people of Indianapolis. And I want to beg you guys to pray with me for that, because all of that stuff I said earlier, that whole list, it's all 100% true. And those statistics were not even hard to find. If we went deep into this, I could have talked for half an hour on the brokenness in our city. Don't walk around it and be like, yeah, it's a broken city. Don't walk through it and be like, yeah, that's kind of terrible. Like, be disgusted by it and beg God to move in the people and not burn it down. So, again, Tristan gets to be the good guy next week. I'm the bad guy this week. But fill out that card. We're going to spend some extended time worshiping. The worship that would be before the sermon today is after. So let's spend some time with God. We've got a couple leaders here who'd love to pray for you. Tristan, John, Rachel. If anyone needs prayer, get with each other. But the thing that I want to walk away from this with is just a better full picture of who God is. Because when we get that, the love and the compassion and Jesus just makes so much more sense. So God, that's my heart today. That's my cry for today. Help us see you, like really see you, not just see the honestly really just toned down version of what we see of you most of the time. You're not a hippie that's just cool with whatever we do. You are a righteous and wrathful God who will always stand for justice and will enact judgment if necessary. But throughout that whole thing, you are also an all-loving, all-caring God who meets us where we are and who literally, because of that first half, came in person, sent Jesus to die for us, to give us new life. Thank you that that's who you are, Lord Jesus. Please move in us and help us see who you really are. Amen.